Hey, Zane here with you. Welcome back with my little buddy Chili once again. He loves listening to my Bitcoin chats. He'll probably jump in the back in a minute, but I want to thank you for tuning in today, for being with me. I really appreciate it. Look, today I want to talk about two of the big hallmarks and features of Bitcoin. Specifically, I want to talk about transparency and I want to talk about sovereignty. So Bitcoin has many features, but these are probably two of the most potent and most powerful that was certainly very attractive to me. And you know, if you've spent any degree of time learning about Bitcoin, you probably realize already that these are two very, very attractive reasons to be getting involved in Bitcoin if you're not already, and to be storing your long-term savings and economic energy into Bitcoin. And so I'll just sort of freewheel here a bit, but I'll see how I go. But by all means, leave a comment for me, like, share, subscribe. But let me know if there's anything you'd like me to elaborate further on at the end of the video. So the first thing is transparency. Transparency, it's so important because what Bitcoin does for the first time in history is it essentially enables us to park our economic value into an immutable ledger with a fixed set of rules that cannot be broken. And this is really the complete opposite to the fiat system. You know, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the US dollar, Canadian dollar, British pound, the euro, all of the fiat currencies where the rules are always broken. And so, you know, there's a saying out there that goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is what happens when you give up something that we were never meant to give up, and that is, you know, our money, you know, freedom that exists with being able to control the money supply and being able to utilize instruments of money that were once upon a time decentralized. And of course now, over the course of the last 100 years, what we've seen is money become more and more centralized. And with that, you know, and he who controls the money supply essentially rules the world. And this is what we've got now, is a situation where money is broken. And when you have broken money, essentially you have all of the problems that we're seeing in society right now. We have inflation, we have a cost of living crisis, we have a growing wealth gap. We have a situation where people who are unfortunate enough to be locked out of the housing market, or even the next generation who are thinking about starting a family, the chances of people who are out of the housing market ever getting in is very, very slim, unless of course they get an inheritance from somewhere, or you know, the bank of mum and dad comes to the party. And so these are all problems that were never meant to exist, and once upon a time they didn't exist, but gradually over time it's been a slow burn where this power and control and centralization of money has led to all of these problems. And so transparency is really important, because when you have a system that is driven by a fixed set of rules and consensus, where thousands of nodes or computers work together all around the world to ensure the transparency, the security and the integrity of that system, of that protocol, as is the case with Bitcoin, you store your value in Bitcoin safe in the knowledge that these are rules that can't be broken. And so instead of being part of a broken money system, you opt out and you become part of a fixed supply system that has transparency and integrity. And what does this do? Well, it protects and preserves your purchasing power, but it not only does that, because Bitcoin is inherently deflationary because of its absolute scarcity and fixed supply proposition, its fixed supply nature. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. There will only ever be 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin. And because of this, when you store your value in Bitcoin, the value of your economic savings and energy actually goes up over time. And this is why Bitcoin over the last decade has been the best performing asset on earth. It's not by accident. It's simply because Bitcoin is a fixed supply protocol, the most scarce form of property that exists on the planet. And so it is absorbing value from other assets because it is the most scarce. And this is what happens. So you begin storing your energy in Bitcoin, your savings, your wealth, and over time what you see is that the value of that not only keeps up with inflation, but actually well exceeds it because of the absolute scarcity situation and properties of Bitcoin. And so transparency is really important because for the first time in history, we have an ability now to actually, honor our output. So our labor, our skill set, whatever it is that you do for a living, now that when you receive those fiat dollars, you have an ability now to actually store and preserve that economic value rather than to watch it slowly slip away by holding it in a fiat currency savings account. And wealthy people already know this because this is why they never sit on cash. They always store that cash, typically, into the stock market or into desirable, well-located real estate, because they know that that is a far better chance of keeping up with the hurdle rate, which is true inflation. And so transparency, that's what Bitcoin promises, number one. Number two is it promises sovereignty, economic freedom, absolute ownership. Bitcoin is digital scarcity. It is pristine collateral, digital capital, property that has complete portability. So with Bitcoin, sovereignty means that you are in complete control of your savings, of your wealth, at any level. And it means that the rules can't be broken in terms of property rights. And we see with traditional real estate, the rules are always changing. They are changing land tax rates, council rates. People don't have any say in the matter, but all of a sudden their rates are coming in this year and they're up 80 to 100% on last year. Well, nobody voted for that. This is just the government, deciding that we're a bit short, so we're going to start increasing our rates as a way of bringing in more revenue. And so none of that can happen with Bitcoin. There are no rules that can be changed to your detriment. And I would argue that with property, you don't actually ever really truly own it. You really only just have a paper claim on it, and it's really owned by the council, the local government. They're the true owners of that. And if they wanted to change the property rights legislation, in truth, you really don't have a claim on that piece of dirt. And so, we have to just keep that in mind. The rules can't be changed. That's why Bitcoin represents economic freedom and sovereignty. And the other thing is that's really important to understand is portability, asset portability. No risk of seizure, no attack vectors that are in place, as is the case with traditional assets. If somebody decides they don't like you, they want to sue you, you go through some kind of a situation in your personal life and your assets, come under scrutiny. These are all situations that exist in the traditional system. And this can't happen with Bitcoin because you have absolute ownership with no ability for confiscation or for seizure. And so the value proposition, particularly for high net worth people, I believe over time, once they start to wake up to this reality, particularly in this growing, litigious society that we're in now, more and more people are going to start really seriously considering Bitcoin, and I believe we're going to see huge waves of capital make their way into Bitcoin because people want to know that which they've worked really hard to accumulate over time, they want to know that it's safe, that it's not at risk. And so Bitcoin with its sovereignty proposition and absolute portability and its permissionless feature where you don't need permission from any local authority. There's no middlemen in place that you need to contact in order to liquidate or to divest that asset if you want to go somewhere else because the rules Maybe you've got a government that's overreach, which we saw in 2020, 21. We saw how easily that can happen. And so people now need to be more conscious of sovereignty, of economic freedom, of financial freedom, of protecting their wealth and their value. And Bitcoin enables that, because with a simple seed phrase, you control your access to the vault in cyberspace, on the ledger, on the immutable ledger that cannot be changed. When you buy Bitcoin, your Bitcoin is stored on the blockchain, on the immutable ledger, and you have the keys in a mnemonic phrase which you can store in your head and store a backup hard copy somewhere offline. But essentially that's all you need in order to access your wealth, your Bitcoin. And so this is why it is so important, for people who are learning about Bitcoin, to really zero in on its true features. And I believe two of the most potent are transparency and portability, which essentially equals sovereignty. And these are two features that do not exist in the centralized system. Remember, Bitcoin is completely decentralized. It is the separation of money from state. It is the first time we've seen this, certainly within my lifetime. And I believe that with everything that's happening globally in the world right now, we're going to see more and more people start to wake up to the value proposition of Bitcoin. And the longer that Bitcoin goes, the more secure and decentralized it becomes. And really the risk value proposition of Bitcoin now is probably the best that it's ever been, because of where it is right now, and the fact now that we have big institutions hoarding Bitcoin. Soon financial planners all around the world will be recommending it to their clients via the ETF, the exchange traded fund. But they're derivatives of Bitcoin. I'm not a fan of that. I'm more about taking absolute ownership of Bitcoin, which is really what it was designed for. And of course we have the US government, who is now preparing to set up a strategic Bitcoin stockpile. And I believe that other countries around the world will soon follow once the US flicks the switch. And once they announce that, I think we're going to see mass awareness around the world, where people are going to start really taking notice of Bitcoin. And of course, when you have a fixed supply protocol, and you have unlimited demand, of course, what you're going to see is the value of Bitcoin skyrocket. And that means it's going to be more difficult for you to acquire this scarce, desirable digital property. And so you really want to think seriously about your situation, where you're at, and learn about Bitcoin as much as you can. Stack sats, as they say. Not financial advice, but certainly I believe that anybody who takes the time to learn about Bitcoin begins to really see its value proposition. So, transparency, sovereignty, two of the main features of Bitcoin. Hope you got some value from today's message. Slowly welcoming new subscribers. So if you're new here, please subscribe. I'd love to hear from you if you want to leave a short comment. If you'd like me to elaborate on anything further, by all means, let me know in the chat. Or in the comments. Like, share and subscribe. This is Zane signing out. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.